Hey guys, I'm Alastair from Trail and Kale, and today I'm going to be reviewing the HOKA Zinal 2. So I know there are quite a few people out there who are very excited to learn about this shoe because it is the second version of the very popular Zinal. So I'm going to go over some of the changes that's happened to this shoe, and there's quite a lot of changes. So some people who are very familiar with the first version or have come to love that shoe may be a little bit worried because it does look like a completely different shoe. I will say it does perform very similarly, but the improvements are good in my opinion. So I'm going to go over those changes very shortly. So anyone who's not familiar with the Zinal from HOKA, then it's a very lightweight, minimal trail running shoe, which is typically very responsive. And because it's so lightweight, it just feels really good and you feel very connected to the trails when you're running in them. The format of this review then is going to be, firstly I'm going to talk about the specifications of the shoe very quickly. Then I'm going to talk about the sizing, whether you need to size up or down or go the usual size. Then I'm going to talk about some of the key features that I really like about this shoe and a few areas where I feel like it could be improved. And then I'm going to go over my performance review, like how does it actually perform on the trails? Does it live up to all the marketing speak? And then I'm going to compare it to the original Zinal and some other very similar shoes that are out there right now, which you might want to consider as well. And then finally, I will summarize this review and let you know if it's worth your hard-earned money. Starting with the specifications then, the HOKA Zinal 2 cost $160. I believe that's $5 more than the original Zinal. The Zinal will now be discounted, so if you do love that shoe, you can get that at a discount. I'll put a link in the description. What's the usage of the Zinal 2? Well, it's a very lightweight, minimal trail running shoe, so anyone who loves to run fast and feel connected to the trail will love these shoes. I would say you could run anything up to marathon distance in these, but they do perform best up to half marathon in my opinion. The Zinal 2 weighs 7.1 ounces, which is incredibly lightweight, and it's lighter than the previous version. I'll go into that in more detail in a moment. It has a 5mm drop, and it is a neutral shoe, so there's no additional support for pronation or anything like that, meaning it will suit most people with average feet. It's also a medium width shoe, and it is touted as being very responsive over cushioned. But in my experience though, there is plenty of cushioning in this shoe for anyone wanting to run up to half marathon distance. What's the sizing and fit then? Well, it is true to size. I can confirm that if you're used to HOKA running shoes, they're generally very consistent with their sizing and they get them spot on. So go with your usual size. If you're familiar with Salomon or On Running or Brooks shoes, for example, then go with your usual size as well. You shouldn't be disappointed, and they fit really nicely just out of the box. Some of the features that I really love about the Zinal 2 then. I'm going to start with the upper because it's completely different to the previous version. There now is a stretch upper. So it's a knit stretch around the collar, so it's very easy to slip on. You just grab this loop here, pull them and slip them on. Super easy to get on. That knit extends underneath the lacing system here. Now you do need to make sure you get them tight enough, otherwise you may feel like they're a little bit loose when going downhill. More on that in a moment in my performance review. But it's not all roses, peaches, unicorns and rainbows on the upper. I will go in more detail on that in a moment with some of the points that could be improved. Next feature that I really like is how lightweight they are. They are lighter than pretty much all the running shoes or trail running shoes that I've got right now. 7.1 ounces is it's really nothing. So this is a super lightweight shoe that you could actually use for racing, and I've got a race in a couple of days. It's a half marathon trail race and I might use these actually, either these or the Speedgoat 5s. Might opt for these though. I'll let you know how I get on with that. But it's just super lightweight, you feel connected to the trail, you don't really feel like you're wearing the shoes. I really like that. And the fact they're minimal, but you still get the cushioning. Love that as well. And that leads me on to my third point, is basically how they feel. They're very responsive. So I mentioned earlier I might use these for a race. They are very fast because of that responsive kind of midsole. It allows you to propel yourself faster than you may do with a more cushioned shoe. And that's not to say it's not cushioned, because there is actually quite a bit of cushioning in this low stack, believe it or not. It feels very good. Time will tell how long that, the durability of the cushioning on the midsole will last. I will update my review, written review on trailandkale.com, and also maybe in the comments of this video as well, if I do notice anything over time, because I am going to be keeping these and running in them a lot. Okay, then some features that could be improved in my opinion is actually the upper, and more specifically the material here. So you might be able to hear this. It's kind of solid. I wouldn't call it a fabric or anything like that. It's more of a plasticky feel. This was one of the things that I thought might be an issue during my run, even before I'd kind of tried them on. Because if you listen to this, you can probably hear that because the microphone's right here. But because it's so rigid and doesn't have any stretch, it kind of cracks. Not cracks, but it kind of pops because there's no flex in it. So it kind of goes, flicks into different places as you flex the shoe. I thought that might become annoying, or it might dig into my feet, but actually once I got running with it, that wasn't a problem at all. But you know what, I just think HOKA can improve that by doing away with this material. It's not as breathable as the previous version either. So I feel like, you know, if it's a cost of durability, it's still worth HOKA replacing this for something else that's more flexible and stretchy. Now, the only other thing that I feel that could be improved, it's not a major thing to be honest, but if you do wear low tab socks, meaning you don't have that collar on your socks, the rear of this shoe around the heel, the collar I guess you could call it, does go up quite high, and this loop does have stitching on the inside. So if I can get that focused there, that is on the inside. So it does have a tendency to rub a little bit on the back of your heel if you do wear low tab socks. I generally do wear those kinds of socks, but the ones I happen to be wearing for a couple of the runs that I've done in this were higher than the heel, so I didn't really notice that issue. But like I said, if you do wear invisible low socks, then that might be a problem for you. Not bad then, only a couple of minor gripes with this shoe so far. Now to the performance review. I've been having a ton of fun running in these shoes. The first run I took them out on was a 10-kilometer loop. There's about 300 meters of climbing. It's my usual trail loop that I like to take new trail running shoes on so I can compare, and you know, I've got a benchmark of how well they should perform on that trail. It's got plenty of steep climbing, plenty of downhill running, hard rocky surfaces, forest trails, so it's got soft trails as well, roots, loose screed, dirt, it's got everything. So it's a really great trail loop for me to test running shoes. And it also starts with a little bit of tarmac or asphalt, so that I can actually get to the trail. I have to run on that surface. So I get to see how they perform on that too. So first off, how do they perform on asphalt or hard road surfaces? Well, actually very well. Like I said, there's enough cushioning in there. It is responsive, more responsive than cushioned. But you've got plenty of cushion there if you do need to get to trails or you're running on particularly hard trails, like hard rocky buff trails. Like a lot of my trail running is out in Northern California out here. So yeah, surprisingly, they performed very well on that surface. And like I said, I do have to run on lots of different terrain. So as you can see on this video that I'm overlaying from my runs with these, you can see I do run all kinds of trails, from forests to rooty kind of rocky trails, very steep, dusty uphills and downhills. So I do need a lot of tread. And the Mega Grip on the outsole with the traction lug here is brilliant. It's so nice. Hopefully you can focus on this. Really impressed with that. Very similar to the Mafat Speed 4 and the Speedgoat 5, which I absolutely love. The lugs aren't quite as deep, although they are deeper than the previous version. I'm going to compare those two shoes very shortly, so stay tuned on that. But yeah, the outsole performed very well on all the different trails that I was running on. No slippage at all. Like I said earlier, you do need to make sure you get these laces tight enough so that your foot does stay in place when you're running downhill. But the types of trail performs very well, so it's a very good all-terrain shoe. Running uphill then, how do they perform? Well, they are very good. I wouldn't say they're great. As you can see where I'm overlaying, I do have to climb some very steep trails to get to the higher elevation rolling trails that I like to run on this route. As you can see, the deep lugs do not stretch across the front of this shoe. You can look on the side as well. It kind of has a different tread pattern. So if you're climbing steep trails, you do need deep lugs on the front because that helps you dig in and pull off, as you're climbing that steep trail. This shoe doesn't have that, so I would say it's probably better suited to kind of rolling trails, nothing with crazy steep trails, although it did perform pretty well. It could be better in my opinion for those very steep uphill climbs. When it comes to downhill running, they were very good, much better than the Zinal one. If you watch my video review of the Zinal that came before this, the traction on the outsole was really bad. I'm going to go over that in a minute. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but it wasn't very good. But the lugs and more lugs on the kind of midsole, mid-foot, should I say, is much better, and the traction's very good running down steep hills. All right, finally, I'm going to get to the comparison then. So this is a brand spanking new shiny Zinal. Previous version, sometimes I like to stock up on shoes in case they go out of stock because new versions come along all the time. So anyway, I got hold of this one, which I haven't actually run in yet. But let's go over the comparison of these two shoes. So as I touched on earlier, Zinal 2, much lighter, 7.1 ounces. Original Zinal, 8.5 ounces. That's a huge difference. It's got a lower stack height on the new one, so that means it's closer to the ground and you will get better trail feel when you're running and better control because of it. I touched on this earlier as well, but the outsole is tons better on the new Zinal 2. It's a huge improvement there. The lugs are much deeper, as you can see, and there are more lugs on the midfoot area, which you really need if you're running down steep downhill sections. So this one here, it's kind of using a different foam on the previous version, which is more slick, and there's just absolutely no tread on there. So I have no idea what HOKA was thinking with that section of this shoe, but it really did not work for me, and I had a lot of scary moments on this shoe going down hills. But great shoe for kind of rolling hills and nothing too challenging, but steep down hills, yikes. New version is more responsive, but with that response I feel like there's more cushioning somehow on the midsole as well. So overall the midsole is just better. The upper on the Zinal 2 is better in terms of fit. I really like the stretchy knit upper and the integrated gaiter that kind of sticks around your ankles and heel. That's really nice. I love that. It feels very comfortable. It contributes to the lighter overall weight of the shoe as well. Although I don't like this section here, I don't like this material here. It's not as breathable as this material here on the Zinal 1. So pros and cons, but overall, upper wins on the Zinal 2. They both have a drop of 5 millimeters from heel to toe, so nothing changed on that. And then the only other thing really is the Zinal 2 cost 160, and when this Zinal was released, I believe it was 155. Overall then, Zinal 2 is the clear winner out of the two shoes. It does look like a completely different shoe. There's no doubt about that. Does have a very different feel to it, but overall it's hugely improved, and I'm really loving it. I'm just going to really quickly share some other shoes that are very similar right now. All of them right now actually happen to be from Salomon as well. So you've got the S-Lab Ultra 3. Very similar, it's got that kind of stretchy knit heel collar thing. Very similar feel as well, both got very good response, but out of the two, I'd have to say the Zinal 2 wins there. And the main reason is the weight. This is just crazy lightweight and it feels more comfortable because of it. Next one, another crazy lightweight shoe from Salomon though. This is the Pulsar 2 from the S-Lab range. Again, very similar. It's got the knit upper around the collar and underneath the lacing system. A little bit of a similar feel, but it is a narrower shoe. Stay tuned for the review on this shoe, by the way. You're gonna like that. And then the other final one would be the Pulsar Trail Pro 2 from Salomon. Similar kind of knit collar as well. Knit goes under the lacing system too. Another very similar shoe to consider. Stay tuned for that review too. Okay, so that's some other very similar shoes that you might want to consider. Is the Zinal 2 worth your hard-earned money? Yes. $160 for a very minimal shoe that's responsive, but also cushioned. A shoe that's versatile because it is very much all-terrain. Works very well when trying to get to the trails, so running on concrete or anything like that. You could also use it as a race shoe. I might use this as my race shoe on Saturday. It's a half marathon trail race. We shall see. Stay tuned for that. I think I probably will. But in general, you get a lot for $160. Although I did point out some very similar shoes right now, it is different in its own way and it's got a lot of cool tech going on. And I think HOKA's done a brilliant job of innovating on their previous version. So a huge thumbs up from me for the Zinal 2. Thanks for watching my HOKA Zinal 2 review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you an idea if this shoe is for you, for your next trail running adventure. I really like it. Love how it looks. Yeah, definitely check out my full review on trailandkale.com for more photos and more insights about this shoe. Like I said, I will be updating that review in the comments as and when my opinions change about the shoe based on more mileage and the durability of the shoe, for example. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next review.